Sixers versus the Raptors. The Sixers 51-31 in the regular season, 4th seed. The Raptors 38-34, the 5th seed. Now, the Raptors are 3-1 against the Sixers this season, 2-0 versus the Sixers when they've had Embiid and Harden, and those games have been without OG Anunoby and Fred VanVleet, who will be playing in the playoffs.
Yep.
Now, Riv, based off what you've been saying for the past couple of minutes, it sounds like you have Philly winning this series in 6.
Yeah, I do have Philly winning this series. And credit to them. Those are good wins. You know, Matisse will not be playing in Toronto because of COVID situations.
Yeah.
But I'm under the belief that if you have two superstar caliber, not saying Harden's a superstar right now, but two superstar caliber players, you should be able to thug out a series like this. And Toronto is going to be a tough series. And that's a team that plays defense at a high level. It's a team that's going to full court pressure you. They're going to be basically 48 minutes of trying extremely hard, and they're going to give you everything they can give you. But I look at Philly, and I think if, and this is a big if, but if Harden, Maxey, Tobias, and Embiid can get it clicking, I really don't think Toronto can step with them if those four can just get it clicking. Defensively, this is going to be a tough series, but the reason why Embiid struggled in certain series, like I'm going to use Toronto, for example, in 2019, they had elite big men defenders that can really check him. Toronto right now doesn't have a big man. I don't trust Ken Birch in a 7-game series to guard Embiid. I don't trust OG. I don't trust Scotty. He's a rookie. No. Siakam is too skinny. He's not strong enough to stay with Embiid. They're going to throw a lot of double teams, which is going to create a lot of opportunities for Harden and Maxey and Tobias Harris. And he has to hit their shots. They do. And I think if they hit their shots, they can definitely win the series and make this competitive. But Toronto's going to make this a fight. Regardless, this is going to be a 6, possibly 7-game series because in Toronto it's going to be tough because they don't have Matisse, and I think Matisse is going to be able to check anybody in Toronto's starting 5 when he does play. But I got Philly in 6.
Let me ask you before I give my analysis. Do you believe that that Embiid by himself can win the Sixers this series?
I believe Harden is going to be better than what he's shown us.
But my main question is, do you believe?
Oh no, if Harden stinks it up, they don't win.
All right,
they don't win.
All right.
They don't win.
Because I'm under the same exact impression.
Harden stinks up, they do not win.
Now, this is going to be the second best series of the first round, in my opinion. I think that this is going to be, like Riv said, a dogfight. I have this series going 7 games. Now, you look at Toronto, they have one of the best defensive starting 5s in the NBA as well. Super young. You have Fred VanVleet, who has been excellent this season offensively. You have Pascal Siakam, who's most likely going to make an All-NBA team, most likely the 3rd All-NBA team. You have players like OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., and, of course, Scotty Barnes, who is going to be a candidate for Rookie of the Year. Defensively, they're a great defensive unit, but offensively, they're I wouldn't call them great. They're definitely really good. I believe that with the lack of bigs that Toronto has, Joel Embiid's going to probably average 30 to 35 points per game. He is not going to be stopped by this Toronto defense. There's nothing they can do. Joel Embiid is going to be a force to be reckoned with. But they need to accept that and try to minimize James Harden, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, because that gives them the best chance of, you know what? We're not going to be able to stop Joel Embiid. Let's put him on an island. Let's let him try and beat us by himself. The key to us not losing is minimizing Harden, minimizing Maxey, because we've seen Harden be inconsistent since coming to Philadelphia, and we've seen Maxey since Harden has come to Philadelphia also in moments not be the aggressive Maxey that we saw early in the season. We saw against the Nets, Maxey really shied away, and then weirdly enough, against Miami, you had Maxey, who was the reason why they were able to get past them. But you still have moments here and there from that time period, that Maxey just kind of shies away from the moment and doesn't want the opportunity. So I do have my concerns with Philadelphia. I think this goes 7, and I think that given James Harden's inconsistent play of recent and Matisse Thybulle's not playing on the road, I think that plays a huge factor. And I do believe that the Raptors are going to win in 7 games.
People look at this series and they count out Toronto. Philadelphia is a team that has been getting favored as of recently, in my opinion, when I've read a lot of these writers' predictions. And the reason is because they feel like they're getting James Harden of old. James Harden is not the same player. And as somebody who has watched James Harden made it a habit of mine, a life habit of mine, every day for the past couple of years. He is not the same player this season. You talk about Embiid doing what he does against Toronto. That's a given. He's going to average 30. He's going to get his rebounds. He's going to do what Embiid does. Nobody can guard him, but that doesn't matter. Toronto doesn't need to stop Embiid.
100%.
They don't need to stop him. James Harden versus Toronto this year in Philly, averaging 15 points, 7 rebounds, 11.5 assists, but 4.5 turnovers, shooting 33% from the field and 12% from 3. Tobias Harris is averaging 12 points per game versus Toronto this year. Tobias Harris is not reliable in the playoffs. James Harden right now, based on what I've seen this season, is not reliable in the playoffs. Tyrese Maxey, I like him a lot. I don't know what I'm going to get.
So who on Toronto's reliable in the playoffs?
Fred VanVleet.
Fred is reliable. Pascal Siakam's
as a
reliable.
number one?
I'm not saying as number one, but I'm saying
as a number
I trust those guys. And guess what? This is what I also say. Even if they're not reliable to give you a given 20 a night, I know the energy, effort, defensive intensity is going to be
100%.
there. Harden,
every player
Harden is
lineup.
not playing any defense.
Nope.
Tobias Harris is not a good defender. Tyrese Maxey is undersized. And then Danny Green. He used to be a very valuable role player. He's not that anymore. The Sixers have no depth whatsoever. The Raptors beat the Sixers already without Fred, without OG. Precious averaged 20 points per game in the last 2 games versus them. He was hitting transition pull-up threes against them. He was on one. Gary Trent averaged 20 versus the Sixers. Their role players have stepped up. They've stepped up huge, and they all play defense. The Sixers' biggest problem is not that Harden is not necessarily himself. Their biggest problem is that they don't have any depth. Outside of those big 4 guys, you have Danny Green, Niang, and Shake Milton that you can really rely on. And then you got guys like Paul Reed and Isaiah Joe. I don't rely on those guys in a playoff series. The Sixers are not good against good or great teams. They went 7-6 against teams who made the play-in or playoffs this year. Thibault can't play in Toronto. And the Raptors, surprisingly, are great against top teams. They are 7-2 this year against the top 4 teams in the Eastern Conference. They outscored Philly by 11 points with Chris Boucher or Pascal Siakam being the tallest player on the court. So they haven't played big against Philadelphia, and they've had success. And just to talk about the depth, Philly has been outscored 61-36 in Embiid's 21 minutes off the floor versus Toronto. So if Embiid is not on the floor, even if it's a 3 to 5 minute stretch, Toronto can easily take control of the game. The Raptors are better coached.
100%.
They're more disciplined.
Agreed.
They're third in turnover rate, which means they don't turn the ball over. They take care of it. And they're first in opponent turnover rate, which means they force turnovers. And you look at James Harden, he's one of the more turnover-prone players in the NBA right now who's lost a step. I think this is Raptors in 6. I think this series is relying on Harden. It really is, because they don't have depth. They need Harden to be superstar level, and I don't think he'll be superstar level. Embiid is going to get his. The Raptors are better coached, like I said. They're more disciplined. They're better defensively, and they have more scoring options. They have more depth that I trust more at this moment in time.
You trust that depth to carry over into a playoff situation? You think Precious Achiuwa is going to pull up transition threes and hit him?
It's not about that, but listen, this what I'm saying. I never said that.
No, you magnified the worst player in his argument.
No, he's going to be one of. He's going to be one of the depth guys.
You want me to name you the depth guys?
You said, and then you said Maxey's undersized when Fred VanVleet is literally shorter than him.
But Fred VanVleet, we know he's an all-star. He's an all-star.
But you tried to say he's undersized though. He's 6'3".
Is Tyrese Maxey a good defender?
A great defender. He's a really
He can
solid
stand.
defender.
He's not a cone.
Is he Fred VanVleet on defense?
No.
He's not.
He's not. But you trying to say undersized? Like Fred VanVleet's 5'10".
I'm just saying, in Philadelphia's lineup, your best perimeter defender is Danny Green. If Matisse Thybulle's not playing in Toronto.
Well, the first 2 games are in Philly, young man. So we have
And
Matisse.
guess what? The problem with Philadelphia is that if you're starting Matisse and not Danny Green, now you have defense, but you don't have spacing. You start Danny Green, you have spacing, but your defense drops off. So they're really picking their poison in that avenue. Harden, Maxey, Tobias are not good defenders. When Thibault doesn't play, you have Danny Green out there. they can put Embiid in so many pick and roll situations and target him to the point that he might be gassed out. We've seen Embiid gassed out in fourth quarters in the playoffs before. Because of that, I feel like the Raptors have the advantage. And talking about the depth, Fred can give me 20 any night. Pascal can give me 20 any night. He averages 30 against Philadelphia in the season series.
But Maxey can also give you 20
Okay, but let me finish. Gary Trent averages 20 against the Sixers. He can give you 20 any night.
You gotta stop.
OG can give you 20 any night.
And OG's really good.
The Raptors have 4 players who can give you 20 on any single given night.
Scotty?
And I'm not even, and Scotty, I wouldn't say 20. I'd say like a good 15.
He's a rookie, so what do you, come on.
And then I'm not even mentioning guys like Chris Boucher off the bench who've been huge for Toronto this year.
Been solid.
And Precious, who's been very solid against the Sixers in the season series. So what I'm saying is that the Raptors, not only do I trust them more, but I trust their effort and their intensity to be there every single possession.
So
and you also
to answer my question, yes, you believe their depth is going to translate into the playoffs.
Their depth, yeah, but I actually just believe that their top guys are going to play very well.
Their depth's going to translate in the first round. Because I agree with you. Their depth, in my opinion, is lacking. I look at their starting 5, and that's the strength for them.
That's literally it for Philly, too.
On top of... But the thing is, Toronto has the defense to stop Philadelphia's guys outside of Joel Embiid.
And Thad Young.
Correct. That's another piece that was added. That was really nice.
He has experience.
I want
respect that.
I want to adjust my analysis. If it goes 7 and Tyrese... And excuse me, I keep saying Tyrese. And Thybulle's able to play in Philadelphia. Correct. I think that Philadelphia has a strong chance to win that game. So I'm gonna adjust my analysis. I think the Raptors are gonna win in 6 because that game 6 in Toronto is gonna be huge for them.
That is gonna be a very tough game.
And you mentioned it perfectly. Nick Nurse is a better coach than Doc Rivers.
Agreed.
And if it gets to a point where he can't adjust to his guys underperforming, which has been a huge blemish on Doc Rivers' name, being unable to make adjustments throughout a series, Nick Nurse is gonna coach circles around him.
I agree. No, that's Nick Nurse clears. He clears. I just think, playoff star power definitely matters.
I don't disagree.
To a high end. And Toronto's a really, really good ass team. Like, they're defensively, they're dogs. But from what we've seen, Pascal's at number 1 isn't that good. He's not that good.
But this is a different Pascal.
You could say that.
And Fred VanVleet has taken it up a notch too.
He's really good.
You can say that, but who's guarding Pascal?
Matisse will lock Pascal up.
He didn't lock him up when they played.
In a regular season game.
Matisse.
I mean, like, it's a regular season game.
There's a chance that Matisse only plays 3 games. 4, excuse me. Apologize.
Yeah, he'll play 4.
Well, so what? Who's guarding Pascal when Matisse can't play in Toronto?
That'd be a tough one.
Nobody.
Is Embiid gonna have to play defense on Pascal? It's the only option.
He can't play defense on Pascal.
Why can't he?
He can't defend him. I've seen Pascal cook him too.
God. Who's gonna guard Embiid, bro?
Nobody has to.
We said it.
What do you mean nobody has to?
He averaged 30 in the season series and they still lost.
You're talking about a regular... Okay, you're talking about a season series that you just said doesn't really matter.
Let's not talk about the regular season.
We don't need to.
Let's just talk about it projecting, right? You have Embiid, who we said is going to give at minimum 30 points per game. We have an inconsistent Harden.
I'm projecting Harden's going to be better than what he has been.
But how can you do that?
Projecting.
But which I'm fine with, because
you just projected Pascal's going to be better. So I can't project?
But my point is, Pascal has already had a run where he was great. But as the number 1, I understand. But this regular season, he has been nothing but consistent.
I mean, he was consistent.
Harden has been inconsistent. Maxey has been inconsistent.
I don't like this whole thing you're doing where you're just throwing out the regular season.
You have
I understand it's the. I understand
so
it's the playoffs.
we're going to throw out the regular season where Harden has been inconsistent, but suddenly he's going to turn it on in the playoffs.
Okay, let me not say you completely throw it out. Let me not say that. That's disrespectful. I'm not going to say you have to completely throw it out.
Pascal's all NBA this season.
But I'm gonna say regular season doesn't always translate to the playoffs, especially with veteran guys. Like, it doesn't always translate. Like I get it. Regular season, the matchup looks funky, but in the playoffs, all that can change. Some coaches don't even use their schemes in the regular season that they use in the playoffs. Like, it's in the playoffs, it's such a different vibe. Like,
but it's
just
I
know it's a different vibe. But this is what I'm gonna say.
That is true.
Even though regular season, I understand that it doesn't matter. Like, a team can win the regular season series. Like, for example, the Nuggets won the regular season series against Golden State. Yeah. You want to know why I throw that out though? Because Draymond Green didn't play for any of those games. And Steph, Clay, nor Dre played for any of those games all together, which that's going to happen in the playoffs. With Toronto, it wasn't like they had an unfair advantage. No, Philly played all of their guys. Tobias, Maxey, Harden, and Embiid. They all played with Thibault as well.
Yep.
And Toronto played without two of their top guys and still beat them. That's why it matters. That's why it matters.
I still don't think it matters.
The matchups matter. That's why that matters.
I still don't think it matters.
And the way I saw Scotty Barnes guarding Harden and his length bothering him, I saw him pickpocket him multiple times. That is definitely going to translate. Like, we see that happen.
And again, if they allow Embiid to just do what he's going to do and really hone in on Harden, Tobias, and Maxey, which is more than possible, how or what offensive output can they put forth to get past them? Again, which is why I started my analysis with, can Embiid by himself?
I said no.
So there it is.
But I think I'm projecting Harden's going to be better.
And what's allowing you to project that Harden's going to be better?
He's a superstar caliber player, bro.
But we haven't seen that in the playoffs basically his entire career. Basically.
No, we have. Yeah, that's just ridiculous. We haven't seen Harden all season long be even an all-star caliber player, I would argue.
It's not ridiculous.
I don't want to say that.
Facts.
He's been an all-star caliber
He's
player.
been, for most of the season, he's been below that.
He's averaging almost a triple-double, but efficiency's been terrible, and it's been an ugly. It's ugly. That's
true. I don't know. I just think, like, come playoff time, they got a lot to prove, bro. Philly, like, they have that chip on their shoulder. They have a lot to prove. They have the mentality. We have to prove something. Harden has a lot to prove. I think he'll definitely be better.
He doesn't, though. He literally said, "I have nothing to prove" in his press conference.
Was that a stab in the
heart? Was that like a fact?
Bro?
Was that like a fact, or somebody just made that up?
No, he said it. He said, "I have absolutely nothing to prove."
He's a fool.
He really, so he like, this wasn't like something like fixed up.
He said that, quote. Wow. He said, "I have absolutely nothing to prove."
Why did he say that? What's wrong with it?
I guess they asked him the question and he said that.
Well, Embiid has something to prove, bro. But not Toronto's a tough team. I don't know. I just feel like Philly, I still got Philly.
Philly in 6.
Nah,
Philly in 7.